everyone. Welcome to another episode of Altar Call MAFS. This is season 18, episode 8. And today, my special guest is Jenn. Hi, Jenn. How are you?
I am sick, but I am happy to be here. This was an amazing episode, and we've got so much to cover, so I cannot wait.
Boy, do we. Like, a lot is happening. Like, it's like give or take with this season. There's
Hmm
not a lot of love and romance, and the women are kind of being douchey to the guys, but a lot is still happening at the same time. But let me get into some housekeeping before we get in. I will be out of town next week, so there will be no new episode and there will be no new after party on Patreon. But there will be an unlocked bonus episode, and it will be the Love is Blind finale recap that I did with Nana. So you'll have something to listen to if you are not a part of the Patreon. And then for patrons, there will be the after party for this week as usual, but for the next week, there will be no after party, but I do drop a little something something for you guys. I managed to gather my thoughts together on Sister Wives and the premiere of 90 Days Last Resort. You don't watch either of those shows, right, Jen?
No, but I keep up a little bit with it on TikTok, and Cody is a hot mess. But
Yes, it is. I just, they have some kind of superpower because nothing's really changing and they still have 18 seasons, I think, out of this. Like, good for them. But the things Cody says on camera, I cannot believe it. But yeah, so there'll be that episode up for you guys to watch. And if you're not a part of the Patreon, just a reminder that there are levels to the Patreon that you can listen to the episode ad free for $3. You can get bonus episodes for $5, and you can get bonus episodes and episodes early for $10. All right. I haven't done these in a while, but a little former couples maths updates. Johnny from the Houston season is getting married anytime now. I think it's this weekend that he's getting married. And congratulations to him. But it's funny because I remember after his whole thing with Bao, and I was like, my wish for him is that he finds no one that's gonna want to marry him and everything. But how naive of me, because that's not how life works.
no.
Like, you can be the worst person in the world. There is somebody out there. And of course, it's not a representative of who he was. Like, maybe it was a time in his life. Maybe he was just dating, bring out the best in each other. But, we've seen pictures. I don't know how much you follow Jen, but we've seen pictures and stuff of his relationship with her. And they seem to have a lot of fun. They seem to love each other. And, finally they're getting married.
Yeah, it's so strange. Like, if you follow the trajectory of the shows, and there's men that are terrible, but always seem to find somebody else. But then you see
Mhm.
like a Michaela and even a Bao. Like, how are those ladies doing? It's so weird.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the one for, I mean, some do. I think the one I always think about is Sonia from Miami, who was with the guy Nick, who made her lie about having sex, not to be confused with the Philly season.
Mm.
And, he eventually, I think he had kids, he had twins or whatever. And, she's still single and stuff. And you just wonder, because she was so sweet to me. And I thought
Hmm
the same thing about, what is her name? Sheila from Chicago, the original Chicago. But she just got married recently and all that. So, I haven't seen Michaela in a while. Do you see her?
I haven't seen Michaela. I heard that, oh, is it Alexis? I heard she got engaged. I think maybe I heard that
Yes.
on your show. But yeah, and then all the other ladies are kind of hit and miss. But yeah, it seems like the terrible men always seem to find some other lady that's like, I'll save him. He'll be different with me. And it's like, all right, good luck, girl.
I want to know when Gil gets married, because Gil was where we were the unpopular opinion because we are not Gil fans, but everyone thinks he's the best thing ever. So I'd love to see like the kind of woman he ended up with. But at the end of the day, we hope that, they learn something from it. And when we talk about after party, someone like Stasha is a great example because she seemed to have learned from the whole situation. She was so wise.
And she looked great.
Oh,
And
she
I know,
did.
and I know Ike was like, hmm.
Mm, stay far, far away. Someone in the comments had said that they thought she and David should get something together, and I was like, I don't know if she's David's type.
Well,
Because
I don't know if David is her type. They might do like a weekend fling in Chicago, but long term, I don't know about that.
I
She
think so too. Because if we really go deeper into it, I think she'll probably, unless she's changed, like she said, but I think she'll probably be like Michelle and be like, "Why are you leaving your mama's house?" So no.
But David is like a big puppy dog. He's like a golden
He
retriever. Like
is.
who does he not get along with other than Michelle?
He is. He is. Michelle. Um, this isn't really news, but Lindsay officially changed her name, and then she shared wedding pictures. She was like, now that it's officially changed in my social security, here are some pictures from her wedding. And I think her baby too should be coming anytime now or
I'm
soon.
so excited for her. She's going to be such a good mom.
Yeah.
This was somebody who I don't know if the edit was bad, but after getting to know her, it's definitely a different lady once you get to know her. So who knows? But
Yeah.
congratulations, Lindsay.
Yes. And finally, MAFS season 16, I hope I got the number right, which is Nashville, is coming to Netflix next week. So there might be new people. You could recommend it to people. I still don't understand why there's not like a overlap of people who watch Love is Blind and people who watch Married at First Sight. Like if you watch Love is Blind, automatically you should love Married at First Sight. So there should be more eyes and more people on Married at First Sight. I don't know what anything can be done to bridge that gap. I don't get it.
I think it's just the timeline. I think people that watch Love is Blind like getting things in package and they want to binge it. Like they're not sitting here for 8 months watching a
Yeah.
show. So I think they get some new fans when they do release it on Netflix.
Yeah.
But then I feel bad for the people that were on that former season and now
Yeah.
people are just finding them and they're in their comments and they're like, man, that was 2 years ago. Leave me alone.
Yep. Like I don't even remember what you're talking about. Okay. Um before we get in, Jen watches the challenge, which I don't have a lot of people in my life who watches the challenge. So I thought we could just talk about it a little. I don't know. Are you up to date?
I am. I back in town and I caught up and my guy Kylan is still doing amazing. I still love Tori. I think in terms of a physical fitness specimen, she's got kind of like she's goals for me. Rachel's goals. I feel bad for Aviv. I think she tried so hard. I think being short really was to her disadvantage this season.
Mhm.
I think breaking up the bananas angels thing was good. I'm kind of over the hey, let's coast through our friendships
Mhm.
kind of thing. So I'm glad that that got busted up. Although Aviv seemed like a nice lady, I didn't need her to go home. But I'm ready for Jenny to do something else. I'm not really down with Jenny mainly because I need her to take some of that stuff out of her lips. But I think as a competitor, I feel like people, the show's been on long enough. You have to understand that you've got to be such a well-rounded athlete. Like you can't just be muscly. You have to be muscly and have cardio. You can't just have cardio. You also have to do puzzles. So I think the people that have figured out that you've got to be good and well-rounded in a bunch of things, as Johnny found out with getting his butt kicked on that puzzle, that I think when you learn to be a well-rounded athlete, like becomes a really, really good show. What do you
Yeah.
think?
So I don't know if you've watched the most recent because I wanted to talk about who left yesterday.
Oh, did I miss one?
Yes.
Oh no, I get it on Amazon, so I get a day behind.
Okay.
But
So
tell me.
everybody else, spoiler alert. Jen is fine with the spoiler, but I am so sad that
Yes.
Corey is gone. I was rooting for Corey. It is
Oh
time for him to get a
no.
win. He's been to so many finals. It would have been great. That's who I was rooting for. And I'm so sad. He got bested by Derek, but Derek had a good strategy. And, it was on his sister's birthday. I don't know if you watch All Stars, but his sister, um, you know, I'm trying to find the best way to say it. He lost his sister and it was her birthday.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh.
her spirit was probably just, watching over him, and it was just, he won and Corey is out.
Was
And
it
it's funny
was it
because he had a phone
was it a
call with
puzzle?
Cheyenne. Yes. He
Yeah,
had a
yeah,
phone call
yeah.
with Cheyenne, and Cheyenne was like, I'm surprised you're still there. And then I'm going to be mad if you're gone this long and you don't come back with a win. And I was like, fuck. he's not. He's gonna lose because they always leave like clues
Oh.
as to who's gonna go, and I think
Yeah.
that is the last guy's elimination, and that's the most painful thing. Is just when that
Mm.
happens. But that's who I was rooting for. I don't mind Kylan. I'm always like I have a hierarchy of who I always root for. I always root for CT one, then I root
Yes.
for
Yes.
West, and then I root for Jordan. And I don't care
Yes.
that people always listen. I acknowledge they were all terrible people, including CT, including I can't pick on one person and defend them on the challenge. They're all terrible people. They've all been terrible people in the past and present. They seem to have learned from it, so we can only hope on that. But I just feel like because Jordan makes everything easy, people forget what he does and how he's a representative for people who may have a disability. Like he
Yep.
doesn't complain, they don't
Hmm.
adjust anything for him. He
Hmm.
just said how he had to bring his own gloves and things like that, and it's amazing what he does
Yeah.
without ever complaining.
And
But
and he's calmed down a lot. Like he used to be a jerk back in the day, and I don't know if it was like his breakup with Tori, but something has changed in him where he's grown, and so he's even somebody. And honestly, he gets ladies. So I was thinking about the other day, like he was with Tori, he was with Nerese, and he was with the tall girl that's super annoying, the veterinarian.
Naya.
No, oh, Naya too. I forgot about
Oh,
Naya.
Laurel.
Laurel,
Laurel.
yes. And I was
Yeah.
like, all right. I mean, he's doing something right where he's
No,
still getting ladies.
N- I will disagree that Jordan is. I think he's still a dick. It's in his nature because he's very anal and he's very like tunnel visioned. But he's much better than he used to be. But I don't mind Kylan because we're just ready for new winners. But also, I'm not going to
Yes.
be mad if Derek wins. As long as it's not bananas. I will never be a fan of bananas ever
Agreed.
in
Agreed.
my life. Be a fan of bananas. For the ladies, I am rooting for Rachel because it would be
Yeah.
kind of a story to be the last person of era one and then
And
you win the whole thing. So I'm
yeah.
there for Rachel. I'm there for Cara, even though she's not performing at her best. But like you said, all rounder, I don't know how anyone beats Tori.
Yeah.
I don't think how possible. She's good at puzzles. She's good at the physical. She's good at cardio. There's nothing she's not good at. So I don't see that happens. I'm with you and Jenny. I was excited that Jenny was coming back and Emily Schromm was coming back because I feel like they needed competition
Yes, for
because
sure.
you can't have Casey, of course, Casey, and also Casey. I don't know if she's that strong. That's my I don't know unpopular opinion. She's just always skated by without going into what's it called the.
Uh Not the challenge.
No, I thought the challenge to
The date, whatever.
elimination.
Thank
She
you. Good
never
grief.
goes into eliminations, and once you put her in there, you have a chance to take her out. But there was just never anybody that was competition
Yeah.
for
But she
them to go against.
but she's also not well rounded. Like how many times has she lost? I mean, she lost to Tori on a puzzle.
But that's what I'm
And
saying is
yeah,
that you
so
find out her weakness
mhm.
in an elimination, but she
Mhm.
doesn't go into a lot of eliminations.
Cuz people are
So
afraid of her. Yeah.
yeah, because that's how she's skated by. I'm not saying she's
Yeah.
not strong. I just don't think she's that scary if you put her in an elimination. In a final, maybe, but well, we don't know. So
And that's
Jenny's unlikable to
yeah,
me.
yeah. Well, I think
Sh-
she complained the whole time, like I'm not friends with anybody, and I'm not friends with anybody. It's like, well, put the protein shake down and talk to somebody and see if that works on your game. Like, I don't think people need to only play a social game. Like, Kylan does a really good job of I'm going to stay loyal to the people that I'm loyal to, and that's as far as his social game goes. Like, he's not like Bananas, who's running around every 5 minutes trying to blow things up. But that's why he's on the show, and that's why he gets paid to be on the show is to blow things up. Otherwise, it'd be a relatively boring season. But I'm like you. I'm not. I'm over the Bananas thing. Like once CT carried him like a backpack, like you're done. Like the mysticism of who you are is done.
I don't think even if Jenny talked to people, it would help. She's just not likable and she's not like self aware. And
Hmm.
she just doesn't seem like someone who like you'd want to hang around. I feel like I'd see her in a room and walk away and go back to another room.
Yeah.
Completely forgot Michelle was on. But
Oh yeah,
good for
Michelle.
her for that. But anyways, we'll see what happens this season. I mean, they compete with MAFS with how long the season goes because we started and God knows and we're still here and it looks like we're gonna go into 2025 for it. But we'll get into MAFS now, guys. Stop screaming. whatever device you're using. I just wanted to take the opportunity to talk, a little challenge with somebody who actually watches it.
Yes, even though I missed the
Okay.
last one. Woohoo!
All right. Getting into maps. So we start with Carla and Juan. They're talking about cleaning. This is the quote unquote housewarming episode. And they're talking about cleaning, and Juan is putting in the blade for the blender because he's in the kitchen. And Jen, it looked like a ninja, and I had PTSD. I had PTSD because I was cut by the blade some years ago. I
Really?
was washing it, and I was trying to put it in the dishwasher, and it was like slow motion. I saw it slip out of my hand. I saw it fall. I couldn't yank my hand. I saw it slice my finger, and
No.
it wouldn't stop bleeding. And I tried, and then I wrapped it up and tied it up because my job at the time, we had like a medical place, and I was like, it was a Sunday. I was like, oh, I'll just go into the medical place tomorrow, take care of it. I unwrapped it the next day, and it was still bleeding.
Wow.
It was so bad. So I saw it, and then now I'm so terrified of the blades. I always hold it way at arm's length. So when I saw Juan just taking it out, I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
Mm,
that was my PTSD moment.
mm.
Um, because I have so many hangups, we see Juan washing the toilet. I can't remember if I've said this on the pod before. I have a thing with toilets. I cannot look at it. I stayed in the same dorm in college because I got used to one bathroom, and that had to be the only bathroom I could even set foot on the 2 years I was in a dorm because I didn't want to get used to it. When I watch Shameless and the intro is all done in a bathroom, I cannot watch it. I cannot look at anything that's like a bathroom. They're just like disease
Yeah.
harbors to me.
I
So,
mean, it's not my favorite part of the bathroom to clean, and like Juan, I do not enjoy cleaning the bathroom. But I feel like the toilet is kind of satisfying though. If you get that little
ugh,
spray, if you get that liquid that goes around it, the blue thing that picks
the
everything up and takes it
disinfected
down.
Lysol.
Yeah, yeah. But
Yeah.
also he sang to the toilet while he was doing it. So I appreciate a man that like A, who's gonna clean the bathroom,
Mhm.
but B does it with a little joy. So I was like, okay, you go, Juan. More points to you,
Mhm.
buddy.
Yeah, thank God my husband isn't doesn't mind cleaning. I cannot do it. Cannot do it. But unrelatable content, Jen. Not satisfying at all. I kept
No.
turning my head, and then every time I looked, they were still at the toilet. I was like, we do not need a close up of the toilet.
Well, then
This
and
happened when Nicole and what's her husband's name, tried in the Nashville season, try to install a bidet.
oh,
And
yeah,
I'm like,
Chris.
way too much toilet. So that's where I probably mentioned it on the pod or something, because I was like, I this is too much toilet for me. I can't.
Well, then I won't tell you about my husband's, toilet obsession with, not bidets, he calls them bum guns, but I was like,
Oh my
"That
God.
is gross, but you do you, brew."
So yeah, so he asked who's coming, who are you inviting. I got excited when she said she was inviting her friend Yinka, because that is a Nigerian name. And I was like, oh, I wonder if it's someone I know. I don't know why I thought that. I don't know every Nigerian, but
Is
I just
it
got excited.
and can you tell by looking at him if he is indeed Nigerian?
Sometimes you can tell, but you can never tell all the time. But I do believe that he is.
Okay, okay.
So I don't know, because it could be a EKG situation. He's like, there's no Nigerian in me, but his first name
Hmm.
is
I feel
completely
like
Nigerian.
I'm seeing more Nigerians on the cast. Do you think there's somebody in casting that's like, we need more Nigerians represented?
No, we're just everywhere. Like literally, there's no reality show now. It's not just MAFS. Like I think one time I joked and I was like, "There's no reality show if there's not one Nigerian at this point. It's everywhere." It was like on The Bachelor. It was like on The Trust. It was on Perfect Match. Everywhere. Like that's just it.
Y'all taking over. Okay. I like green's my favorite color. I'm here for it.
So they are having their theme. They each have different themes, and their theme is a toga party. And Juan is trying to, figure his out and all that kind of stuff. But he does that song association thing that he does again. I think it was like my goodies, my goodies. And I was like, go on, getting that on. Speaking of Nigerians, we moved to MM and EKG, and their theme is a fiesta. Like their honeymoon was in Mexico. They're continuing the love. And he asks, so what did you do? What are you doing? And she goes, I ordered tacos. Like, I didn't know how to make fish tacos. I'm not trying to kill nobody. So I just ordered it. And Ikechi was like, I could have made the tacos. And she's like, oh, I didn't know you wanted to make it. He says, yeah, I could have saved you some. Pause. I knew he
Mm,
wanted to say money.
money. Yep.
I knew that's what he wanted to say.
Yep. And
He
he
caught
stopped
himself.
himself because he knew he was on TV.
He did.
Hmm.
He said time. And I'm like, how do you save time making it when she ordered it? What else is the ultimate time saver than ordering?
But also, why are you offering to help after the fact? Like, I'm sure at some point she let him in on her plans and he had a chance to offer, but he had to wait until camera came on to be like, oh no, I would have helped you with that. Shut up.
He kind of gave an explanation at after party, but I don't know. We'll
Mm-mm.
see if that made sense. So my whole thing was like, okay, she ordered it. What's the problem? Like, you could have made it. Yes, you could have done it, but you didn't. Then they start going back and forth. She's like, did you want to do it? He's like, no, I didn't want to, but I could have. She's like, did you say anything? He's like, I didn't. She's like, communicate. I'm like, what are we talking about now?
Yeah.
I just think this is a spillover from after seeing her apartment and he hasn't been able to shake it off. Like, maybe he's not good enough in his mind. Not that she said that. And I just think he's mad that she can afford to order tacos. It sounds really simple, but honestly, that's what I think.
Well, he's mad about a bunch of things that have nothing to do with her. Like when she walked into his apartment and sat on his bed, and he's like, oh, you're just going to sit on the bed? What are you upset about, sir? She's somebody that's just doing, she's living, and everything about her irritates you. So just say that
Mm-hmm.
because she's putting this party together. Mind you, if you really want to be helpful, sir, she's putting up decorations and you're just sitting there talking to her doing nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
let her put this party together, be gracious, say thank you, and be quiet. This was an argument about nothing.
Yep, it sure was. You know when they say people are arguing, but it's not about what they're arguing about?
Yep.
That's what it felt like in this
No.
situation. So I don't know. He just goes, I'm just going to keep quiet. And he goes, oh, joy. And then it becomes so weird about it. But like you said, what else could have been done? And then finding out that he didn't even want to. And then
Hmm.
they switch over to the conversation about her cousin coming. And Nikechi says, like, he didn't like the last conversation with her and it was aggressive. If only we knew that it was a foreshadowing
Right?
of the word aggressive.
Right?
And because this insecure man always has to have the last word, he was like, he tells her like, I wasn't scared of him for the record. Nobody said you were, sir.
I mean, you told again, you played yourself, you told on yourself. There's something weird about him. You know, he came out as this very confident dude, like I've overcome this and I'm poetry this and I'm, Renaissance man this. But the minute that he gets confronted with something he doesn't like, he latches out in such a weird way. Like I get why maybe he was nervous or he may not have liked the way the cousin confronted her, but clearly this is somebody important in her life. And if
Hmm.
you want this woman to be your life in your life and be your wife, he's going to be around. So you either
Hmm.
suck it up or you figure out a way to manage a relationship with this guy. But because he can't manage his relationship with her, he's not going to extend any sort of grace to anybody else in her family. So I'm yeah,
Yeah.
this is scary.
I mean, the only thing I'll disagree with, like, I don't think he came off as confident. Like from
Mm,
episode one, I clocked him as someone who's insecure, and these insecure men get triggered because you're writing a whole narrative in your head. And he's very big on like every little thing. Like even when he's like sensitive with his art or something with Keisha, he's on the
yeah.
defense a lot. It doesn't
Yes.
take much for him to
No.
be on there. You could be like, "Oh, well, this actually happened." Where she was like, "Oh, your glasses," and he's like, "What? What did I mean?" I da, 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 da. Like, and then he creates this whole thing that it's not about. So I'm
Yeah.
like, that's a lot of
Mm-mm.
work. I just okay. So my inter- interpretation is that I feel, despite what he's been saying, that he's not attracted to her. I don't know how true that is or not because he always says she's beautiful. They gave him what he asked for and all that stuff. But I just always wonder anytime these people misbehave, if they're with someone that they found attractive, what would they, how would they react
Yeah.
to
I
it?
don't
Because,
I think if he was attracted to her, this stuff wouldn't bother him. Like I
yeah.
think even just when they were in bed and the way he looks at her in bed is just so like harsh, you know. And she was like, I slept on my side of the bed. He's like, no, you weren't. You're way over here. And da 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 da
Mhm.
da. Let's put a line here. Just the way he talks to her is
Mhm.
so aggressive, to use his word, because it comes out of nowhere. And she's really kind of, you know, a little bit of David where she's trying, and she's, you know, he puts these things out there and she doesn't take the bait, to her credit, because she could
Yeah.
easily be like, what's happening? We just woke up. And I don't know. I think there's some level of Michelle, there's some level of, if I'm not attracted to you, I'm going to treat you some sort of way, and then when you react, I'm going to blame it on you. And that's what I
Yeah.
feel like he's doing, is he's trying to pick at her so that she becomes the thing that he can point at and be like, look, see, that's why we're not working, because you did this, and not
Yeah.
looking at the ways he made her do this.
Yeah. You're right. He picks at and on her.
Yes.
And
Um,
so, but I think that's a thing that MAFS is suffering from in recent seasons. There's a lot of couples who are not attracted to each other, and I don't know, we can't blame the experts, but because you don't know until you see each other. But the question is, how was it possible back in the day, but now it's getting harder? Is it the whole more options thing? Is it social media, the catch all for everything? Or is it the case of, or can we actually blame the experts? Because when you go back and you're like, if Michelle tells you she's a control freak and she does this, why would we cast somebody who seems inflexible?
yeah, but I think there's an element that we can't control, because I think when we go back to Ikechi, like he said, I want somebody that was, what was it, Michelle Obama and somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
and physically looks like those two women. So I think
Mm-hmm.
on paper, they gave him what he asked for. And there's some element that I don't think, and I'm going to try to stop blaming the experts at this point, there's some element that they can't control. And she did something, she said something, something happened where his switch got flipped, and we would never know what that is, because I don't even think he knows what it is. But something about
Oh,
him bugs her.
oh, I think, okay. Again, projection. I don't know. And I get what you're saying. I do think that they get it right on paper. I think what I'm saying is, why are we, of course we know like some things are not going to translate, but why are we
Hmm.
getting a higher recurrence of it not translating when back in the day it used to?
Yeah, I don't know.
And I don't know if it's a case of not having, are we casting people who are now not flexible? And if they are, why are they even trying out for this show? I don't know. But I think what happened with Ikechi is he wants, whether he's going to say it or not, because he thinks he's a renaissance man, he wants a, subservient sounds weird, but he wants a quiet lady.
He wants an audience. He wants somebody that's going to be like, "Oh my gosh, your hair is, your glasses are so wonderful. That poem was wonderful. Your shirt's wonderful. Your business is wonderful." Like, he wants an audience. He doesn't want a wife.
He wants somebody that he feels he's above.
Yeah, agreed.
He like, because she's established, she's independent, she's, all the things. That's why when they ask you what would you like to change, you tell me you want to see the art in her, and then
Hmm.
your critique is that she has things in order. Like, do you hear yourself? Like, he wants a very flawed person, that, and we're all flawed, don't get me wrong, but he wants
Hmm.
someone that who he considers is so flawed that he can feel like, okay, I can help this person. But I
Right.
think here he feels like, where would I be of need? Like, even all those comments in the apartments when you're just saying like, I'm depressed now, like, oh, I'm not gonna live up to this, like, that's what I think is triggering whatever his actions are towards her. And also the whole thing, like, remember when they got married and she just kind of kissed him and was asking him all these
Hmm.
questions. Honestly, I feel like that's what he's referring to when we go further down the line and we talk about aggressive, but those things happened way early, but he's just hanging on to it like Michelle is hanging on to the house living situation
Yes. Right.
thing. So,
Yikes.
so speaking of David and Michelle, Michelle is still talking about not being so sold, and we're like, duh, we know. We've been watching you for 8 episodes, but that they
Surprise.
do better in a group setting. So this might be not so bad. I'm like, this group setting, everybody comes with two friends. So we're talking about four people. So, you know. So David comes in. I think in the very beginning, we see Dave write her a note and say that he's going out just to let her know and trying a different form of communication.
Hmm.
So David asks her how it feels not seeing each other because of their schedules. He brings up leaving her a note and that he didn't get any response. And this condescending woman is like, uh huh. So you wanted me to leave you a note? I'm like,
Ugh,
understand what this man is saying. Like,
right.
stop playing glib or trying to make him sound like he's being like stupid or something.
Right.
And
He's like,
then her tit for tat, she's like, well, you didn't come home last night and didn't give me a heads up if we're calling people out. And he's like, I'm not calling you out. But
yeah.
also, why didn't she come home? Actually, we didn't like nothing happened after that because I'm sure she's like, oh, thank God. But why is David not coming home? Like, these people, stop spending time in your house. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
stay
Well,
in your
I
matrimonial
mean,
home.
David's a big guy, and I don't know what that couch looks like. I imagine it's probably not big enough for him. So if he's like, if she gets to go home and stay in her comfy bed, I'm gonna go home and stay in my comfy bed too. So,
He's
I
in the
get it.
second bedroom. Isn't there a bed there?
Is there a second bedroom? Oh,
Yeah. So
he kept
that's
talking
where
about sleeping on the couch. So yeah.
oh, he always falls. He's one of those people, like you're watching a movie and you just fall asleep on the couch. That never happens to me. um, but here's the thing. If they're not even speaking and they're in different schedules, honestly, why was David matched? Regardless of if it's Michelle or not. And also, how is he filming? I just have so many questions. Like,
Yeah.
he keeps saying second shift. He works the second shift. She's not around. They barely see each other. It looks like the only time they talk is during filming. What? Why was David matched if they knew his schedule?
My guess is he probably told him because I think at some point he said to her that he was putting in to get switched to a different shift. And
Mm,
so they probably thought, and they, MAFS and all their infinite research, they probably didn't do any research to say, well, when is that going to happen? Is that going to happen by the time we film? He just said, I'm going to do it. And they're like, okay. Um, and it's probably to their relief that they can't spend that much time together because those poor cameramen having to film these two must want to punch themselves in the face because
yeah.
the whole thing just makes me so sad because he's trying so hard and he's being so earnest. And I think he's taking this so seriously. And to have every door slammed in his face for something that he didn't really do. Yes, he told her too much too soon,
Hmm.
but he's tried to make up for that. And so this is what, and I wish somebody would punch Michelle in the face and let her see, like, this is what it looks like to work in a relationship. This is what it looks like to put in the effort, that when things aren't working, you try something else. You don't just sit there and harp on this one, two, three things or whatever that you can't get past. And I really wish Pia had pushed her a little harder when they met with her to be like, this is, what are you doing? Like, this is what you asked for. And yeah, I don't know. Poor David. He's
Jen,
trying
maybe
so
not
hard.
a punch in the face. Maybe
I
just a
just want to
slight
punch
tap.
everybody. I'm sick and I'm angry right now. I just want to punch everybody in the face.
Maybe just a slight tap. Be like, Michelle, you should know. Yeah, I think MAFS cannot afford to take risks, and I've been saying it for the last few. Err on the side of caution. Someone tells you, "Oh, I have two shifts. It's gonna get X." Just next, like don't err. Like just be so cautious and just always be like, "Yeah, we can't take risks for the next season. We need matches." Because at this point, if they continue without matches, what are well, The Bachelor does it, so but I
Yeah.
don't think, but The Bachelor has earned so much equity that I don't think MAFS is on that level that they can afford to have season after season of five couples and have nothing come out of it.
I mean, we're still here. We're still watching. I
That's
mean, they're
true.
they're still making money. So as
That's
much as we
true.
can give them advice and I mean, to some degree, are we tuning in because we know that somebody's going to cheat and we're all pretty sure it's David? So we're coming back and tuning in for this. So the idea of we're tuning in to see a Cameron and a Lauren, I don't know if those days are still around. I still want to see like a Brianna and a Miles, but there's enough people that tune in that want to see the train wreck or to see who David's going to cheat with that are going to tune in every week. So,
Jen, I think you just made a new couple with Brianna and Miles. I think you meant Brianna and Vincent.
Vienna and Vincent, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, they didn't have a theme, but I think that's on brand with their relationship.
Their theme is sadness.
Sadness and dead end. She had like a charcuterie board though, and wine and all that stuff. So, Madison and Alan. Every time these people come up, I forget that they're part of the show. Madison brings Alan to the gym. This is where she does her cardio. We saw this because this is where Dr. Pepper told her that they'd found a match for her. It's a
Hmm.
kind of, I don't even know what it's called. It's a stairmaster that's a full body stairmaster for your hands and your legs, and you just climb, I guess.
I would call it a mountain climber because that's what it looks like, somebody climbing a mountain. But yeah,
Oh,
that's a piece of gym equipment I would never use.
that makes sense. It's a mountain climber. I would use it, but I would go so slow. I'd be like, 1, 2, 1, 2, break. 1, 2, 1, 2, break.
You're like, I'm doing intervals. Back off.
um, so Alan says he wants Madison to find his bod banging, and he does that. They start, and then he's struggling. She's like, it's kind of nice to see him. It's kind of fun to see him struggling, but at least he's trying, and it's, nice to see. He says nice things to her, and then he mentions how he likes quality time of them being present, and they need to make effort. And she's just like, yeah, yeah, okay.
Good idea, hon.
I don't I don't know. It's tough for Madison because she's playing nice. So you can't really say anything like she's not trying, but all she does is criticize him. But you
Yeah,
know.
I mean, and I think that, and I would love to hear your opinion about this. Like, I think he's trying. I think he's like, clearly she's into fitness. I'm going to try these things, and he's very much like, hey, I worked out 4 day 4 of the last 3 days and whatever. And she was like, oh, I didn't know that. Good job. So I think he's trying to appeal to her in the space that he thinks will work for her because, again, he's already been told that he's ugly and not her type.
Hmm.
So he's trying everything that he can to be her type, but he's not necessarily getting anything back in return. But I think the thing with Madison is that she needs action. She doesn't need talking. So if he had just planned something instead of talking about planning something, I think that would go a lot further with her. What do you think?
Um, I think that yes, she's doing it with a smile, but there is nothing he can do that can change
Mm.
her mind
Mm.
about how she feels about him. She'll appreciate it because at the very least she's a decent person. So, but I don't think it will change her mind. For the fact that he keeps mentioning things like, oh, how she went out on the happy hour in their first time. And then later on, when he says she went out to do things with her friends, she doesn't want to hang out with him. And
Yeah. And that's passive aggressive the way that he brought it up instead of saying something like, well, it would have been nice if you'd spent the first night in our apartment together. Like, that's not the kind of man she's looking for. She needs somebody who's going to say, like, hey, babe, this was our first night together. I want you to be here. And I think had he said something a little bit more assertive, maybe she would have
mhm,
responded to it. I don't know. But did you
you
peep
know,
did you peep that David said that he was working out with her?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, we'll get there. We'll get there. So we'll see how that plays out. But something I haven't thought about that you mentioned is it is true. He hasn't planned anything.
No. Mm-mm.
I didn't think about that.
Nope.
So because I was about to defend him and be like, "Oh, like he's not just talk, like he's also action, like he says he's going to work out, he's doing that." But that also is because that's what she wants.
Yep.
So in her mind, she's thinking you're just doing stuff that I like, but it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
come naturally to you.
Right. But
So
also, he
who are
hasn't.
you?
Yeah, and he hasn't planned anything. Like, we don't know what is it that he likes other than being goofy and weird and playing, driving around in his hoopty. Like, we don't know anything about him. Even she planned the birthday party. She planned
Yeah.
this. She planned this. So I think the action is what he's missing, and I don't know if it will change her mind,
Yeah.
but it would be something.
That's a good point. I didn't think about it because I'd already like, oh no, that's it. But now that I sat and thought about it, that is a good point. Yeah, and then also, he said he wasn't a pushover because she said that's not a thing that she likes. But so far, him just when you said passive aggressive, because I know he said he was sad
Hmm.
that she wasn't there for their first night, and as soon as she walked in, he's like, "Oh, I just wanted you to know there's no bad vibes. I don't care that you did it. I understand." But that was a lie.
It's
Like you
absolutely
have to be assertive. Yeah, you have to be assertive, and maybe that's
lie.
what she's looking for. But like I said, I think the thing I think I stand on is I don't think anything at this point would change her mind. But I do think she has it at the back of her mind, like, oh, if I don't give this my all, you know, am I going to regret it later?
No.
So she's just trying. But again, I don't want to give people props for trying. No.
Do or do not. There is no try.
Camille and Thomas. So my last two guests have been singing about the lack of swag from Thomas. And I've been defending him like he's not that bad. I don't between Camille and you guys, everything is just like, they were talking about how Tim is different and all that. Jan. As soon as they walked into that backyard and I saw Tim in that apron, his tats, I was like,
Ah, yeah.
we
Yeah.
can't all be right all the time. I was wrong, wrong, wrong.
Yeah, there's a definite difference. I mean, they're twins, but there's a definite difference between the two of them. And again, the swag is such a it's and this is where Camille drives me nuts is like and actually this is where a lot of them drive me nuts where they think that they're communicating and communicating is more than just saying words like you have to say
Mhm.
something specific like
Mhm.
he can't go off of swag he doesn't know what that is if you can't tell
Mhm.
him that it's I need you in a tighter shirt or I need you to have longer tattoos or until you give him something specific to go off of because I get the sense
Mhm.
he's a finance guy so I think he's going to be very analytical if you say wear a blue shirt on Tuesday he's going to wear a blue shirt on Tuesday so you just have to tell him what that is. But yeah, there's a definite difference between him and his brother.
Yeah, especially standing side by side. I was like, wow. Um, it took me a while, but then I noticed I was like, oh, they get to skip the housewarming. But again, how do you beat a house with a pool? So,
Right.
why
Right.
not? They drove in, and he probably lives in like in the suburbs, but they drove in with Camille's sister
Hmm.
and her friends joined them later. Camille says that it will be good to see Tom in his element. And at some point in there, they're all hanging around. Thomas asked his sister in law, hey, can you grab two beers for me? And it was for his brother. At first,
Hmm.
I was like, huh, is this a good look to send a woman to go get beers for you? And I was like, well, at least he didn't tell Camille to do it because that could have been
Yeah.
something else. And then Camille's sister is like, well, what about your wife? And then he saves himself. He's like, no, I know you guys are into the tequila. So we would get that and then I'll go get tequila for you guys. So that was something that could have been bigger
Yeah. Whoopsie
for certain
daisy.
seasons, but it
Whoopsie
wasn't.
daisy. I just again, but also I don't if that's the kind of relationship that he has with his sister-in-law where and I don't know how long she's been married to his brother, maybe that's their relationship that she just,
Yeah.
she gets something for one and you get something for the other. And that might be just what so I didn't hold that against him. I did think it was a little kind of like, ooh, whoopsie daisy. You didn't get something for your wife and her sister, but
Yeah.
to me that wasn't a deal breaker. I think that was just he's comfortable, he's in his element, and he does what he always does because he's been, single for a minute.
I'm with you, but it's just I have scars from previous seasons, and I just know there are certain cast members that would have just been like, even the way he did. Honestly, I feel like even Carla, because her
Yeah.
big thing is just like, don't forget about me, don't do that. Like that would be, and that's the thing. Everybody has different things that they're sensitive to, and it's attached to something even larger. So to her, it could have just been like, oh, you forgot about me, and something like that. So I'm just glad that it didn't blow up into something and everybody just laughed,
Well,
because then I could breathe.
yeah, you forgive it once. If it's something that he does every time they go out, then it's a
Yeah.
problem. But if it's like,
Yeah.
this is the first time we've hung out, I get it. Don't do it
Yeah.
again.
So Camille's friends come by, two of her friends come by, and the MAFS music starts playing and the lyrics are vibe check 100%. And his friend Sergio was already there. I don't know if you felt the same way. I felt like I don't know if this is Sergio, but it felt like Sergio was nervous. And one of those people like when they're nervous, they can't stop talking.
Right. I think Sergio was just trying to make fetch happen. Sergio was like, I'm on TV and I'm going to make a splash and I'm going to be the MC for this. Mainly because I think was Thomas's brother not there, so maybe he felt like he had to be the MC and the host for the day. I don't know. It was yeah, but
he
he had some nervous energy.
Yeah, he came Thomas's brother came on later when they were all talking cuz Tom they asked him to start listing all the things that she likes and he said listing her color, her food, and then Sergio flips it and he's like, "Okay, what are his, favorite food, favorite color?" And Thomas is like he likes to take notes of the things that she likes. Then her sister just comes out randomly like, "Yo, you've mentioned that he's not your usual type because
Ugh.
he's lighter skinned than anyone that you've ever dated." And listen, I get it. It's a reality show and we're all talking, but sometimes I just feel like they really have to be cognizant of the fact that they could be good sports about it. And we're talking Alan, we're talking Tom, we're talking all these people taking the hits. They're still human beings, guys.
Yes.
Like
I
even
don't know why somebody you love would be like, "Hey, let's talk about remember that thing you told me you hated about this person? Let's talk about it out loud to their face." Why would you do that?
oh man, I was just like, what? Because you shouldn't take it personally. Yes, it's not really indicative of something about how you look, but just to say you're not my type, you're lighter skin, than you could create a complex for the person. Like, wait,
Right.
so does she think I'm gross? What?
What the
So
hell?
and they were like, yeah, as if that wasn't enough. They're like, even personality wise, like she says she goes for loud personality, showboaty kind of guys. And his friend was like, yeah, I could say the same about you. That you're different from other girls. And then she's like, how? I don't think she was expecting him to go this route. I think she thought he was gonna go physical. But Sergio was like, oh, you're far more genuine. Like his brother said, and then his brother joined in the conversation. Like, you're the first person that I feel that doesn't want something from him and didn't want to make him something that he isn't. And I'm like, is
Yeah.
that part true? Is Camille not trying to make him like have more swag, have more culture, and have other things? I don't know. I'm on the fence. I don't know.
She is, but and again, I think what Dr. Cal Dr. Cal, Pastor Cal said what makes sense is like, yeah, there's going to be things about your person that you're going to want to not change, but you're going to evolve as people. And if you
Hmm.
want this person to evolve, you have to tell them. And if it's something that's not, core to their being, I don't think a guy minds changing his shirt, or I don't think he minds doing this, or I don't think he minds doing that. But he's not going to change the color of his skin. So if that's an issue, you should have brought that up sooner.
Yeah. They do the maths game where everyone tiptoes around it, and Sergio's like, I'm just gonna ask, have you guys been intimate? Like, okay.
Ew.
And I'm like, Camille is like, no, not yet. And that says that she can't confidently say that they're the perfect match. Oh, sorry, her friend Tina. They're talking to them, and Tina's like, I can't confidently say that they're the perfect match, that she's only talked to him twice, but he's not her usual type. So I'm not sure about it. And I'm like, Tina, where has her type gotten her to? Like, why
Exactly.
can't you be? I just felt she could have been more positive because her other friend had already said, like, he's cool. I like him. Like, you could just say that and say, we'll see how it goes. It's too soon to tell. But she had like this stank face and I was just like, meh, he's not her type.
Yeah.
So Tina brings up the whole, they go talk with Thomas, and Tina brings up the whole cultural difference thing. And he's like, yeah, she keeps bringing it up. But the thing is, she talks about our differences, but I don't see what the difference is. So therefore, it's not a concern for me. This is all we've heard for 8 episodes. And this man talk about, I don't know what it is. But to his point, she hasn't been able to articulate what exactly it is.
Yes.
So Thomas is like, I'm not going to stress myself. If you
Ex-
don't know, I don't know. And I'm just going to act like we don't know. So
Right.
it's not a concern. Not going to make something if it's not a thing.
But also his statement was so cute where he was like, I didn't, you're light skinned, so I didn't think you would have a problem with light skinned guys. And she was so offended. But in his brain, I could see why he would make that connection because he's just not where she is, which they've discussed. But
Yeah.
again, you've got to communicate that to him because he has no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah. So, um, Tim does ask, like, I don't know, what are these? Tim asked Camille, like, what are these differences? And I'm like, that is a good question because
Yes.
we've been dancing around this. And she says, things like where they grew up, that there's a bar they usually go to that has had racial incidences and comments being made, and there was a disconnect there. And she wants to make him aware of the differences. And it seems like that's how she differs from his exes as well. As Ade would say, this was a lot of word salad, a lot of code speak because she just can't say what she's trying to say. And usually I'd be like, oh, this is what she's trying to say. But honestly, this is kind of sensitive and I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth or what it is she's trying to say. But it's all the reason why it gets really annoying when they're focusing so much on this cultural differences is We haven't been told exactly what it is. We can make inferences. I know what I think she's saying,
Hmm.
but I don't want to put that on her if that's not what she means. But if she can express it, we don't know. We're making guesses. It becomes tiresome to watch.
And I think for me, as somebody that is potentially, although I am dark skinned, I think I may have grown up similarly to Thomas, where I was around white people. I went to a PWI. You know, I've got teased by the way that I talk. Oh, you talk like a white girl. So I think that's what she's talking about. And I think until, you know, I maybe I was maybe 13 before I realized that was a problem, you know, and that was somebody saying stuff to me about it. And so I see where I'm guessing from
Hmm.
my personal experience of projecting that maybe that's where she's coming from, and that, you know, maybe he listens to Depeche Mode instead of you know,
Her
DMX.
his
You
new.
know.
I think that's part of it, but actually, I think it's deeper. But again, because I don't know exactly, and I don't want to accuse Thomas of something, because it could be something of, I don't know if Thomas has ever been like, I don't see color. And
Hmm.
when she says there were racial incidences and comments, like if it's a case where you're around white people who are using the N word around you and you're just not bothered about it. Those
Right.
are some of the things that came to my mind, but again, don't want to put that on him, don't want to put that on her.
Right.
But it's so vague that there's a spectrum, it could be anything because we don't know how far her spectrum goes. So it's just, if I don't know, I'm not going to keep watching the show. They're arguing about something that I don't know the specifics of. So if we're not going to make it so clear, let's find another storyline. I think
Yeah,
that is where my frustration is.
it's true.
So
That's true.
Tim says, yeah, that he feels that she would challenge him, and if no one pushes him, he will be stagnant. I was like, well, he's not her
Mm,
helper. I don't like that thing they
yeah.
do on MAFS. Again, you're gonna grow with your partner and things like that, but he's also like 42.
Yeah.
So I don't know
And
I don't know why he needs somebody else to challenge him. He should be self-motivated, but that's just me.
And that was the note I made, is that everybody keeps talking about how nice Thomas is, but does Camille want to train this man that's 10 years older than her
Hmm.
um, to do things? You know, it's one thing to be like, okay, my guy is motivated in very different ways, but if I have to push him all of the time, then that's going to get really annoying. And maybe that's what she means by swag, is that, because I think she said in their honeymoon too, like, I want to be led in some places. And so
Hmm.
maybe that's what she means by swag, but she's got to be able to communicate that and
Hmm.
to say, I don't, not using this generic word swag, but I need somebody who's going to lead me. I need somebody who is not stagnant and needs to be pushed in all areas. And what
Yeah.
are some areas that I'm willing to push you on? And what are some areas that I need you to push yourself on? So,
Yeah.
but again, that's requires people to use their words.
Yes. So we move back to Carla and Juan. All their friends are in there and they're all in their toga. I think it was pretty cool that Carla's friend and Juan's cousin already came dressed in their toga.
Yes.
So they do this thing, they're gonna do this for the other couples too. They're in their tiny apartment and they split out into the tiny apartment and we're supposed to pretend like they can't hear each other.
That's
But in
so
Carla's
weird.
case, she goes to give them a tour of the apartment. So
Mhm.
they actually leave. So he asks, Juan asks Carla's friend, like, do you want to sit? And she's like, no, I'm good standing. And I was just like, I don't know. Maybe I could be reading into it. The vibe just seemed cold. Like, even when Yinka came in, it wasn't like exactly warm. And Yinka didn't even say anything the entire time that they were speaking with Juan.
Yeah, I think they came in ready to defend their girl.
Her friend asks, what the biggest missing piece is for him, and he says communication. And then she says, "Do you compliment her often?" He says, "Yeah, but I don't go too far." The friend was like, "Carla said that you don't compliment her, and she's not sure if you're in it 100%. Like, we get your schedule, and it's hard to have time for anything." I'm saying, why sign up? Because David has a schedule where he has no time to even see his wife. Alan is not doing anything to schedule anything with his wife, as you nicely pointed out to me now. Juan doesn't have time and doesn't seem to do anything. Ikechi wants to stay home and is not doing anything for his wife. What is going on with these men?
They're just like, what? I have a wife. She'll do all of that.
That's kind of crazy. Like, maybe like you don't have to wait for the producers to plan a date for you to do something. But honestly, I'm just realizing like we are not getting anything of, oh, he did this for me. Oh, he did. Well, the most they've done is like, I guess they've cooked dinner for each other, but everything revolves around staying home.
No. And I think
So,
that's where people get in trouble too. You were talking earlier about The Bachelor and kind of the longevity of those couples. And I think because you're in this hyper extended romantic place where you're going on all these
mm-hmm.
crazy dates and then you get home and producers aren't planning stuff for you,
Mm,
what happens then? So,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So he says, well, now that I know, like she has not communicated anything to me, so I didn't know, but now that I know, I'm going to do that. I will say this, I don't think Carla is the best communicator. She's just harboring and passive aggressive and expects the other person to know. But I think this episode kind of leaned towards what I said last week, where I was like, I don't think Juan is attracted to Carla. But it seems like the previews for next week are going to confirm that he's not attracted to her. And also, later on, when she says it's like kissing her cousin, I don't know if she's attracted to him or she's just reciprocating energy.
Carla and her energy. I wonder too if she's, again, I think this was one of the things that struck me about her when we first met her, and even when she was on after parties and stuff. Like, she leads with these very like sexual and over the top and very me attention. And I think maybe historically she's used to being that woman that gets attention all the time, everywhere, from everyone, and she's with a partner that's not doing that. And
Yeah.
so she's registering that as, oh, he doesn't like me, so I'm going to shut down. Because you notice when she went to bed this time, she wasn't wearing them sexy pajamas that she wore on the honeymoon. So I think she leads with, you know, her energy, her sexuality, her openness, whatever, her attention seeking, and he's not giving it to her. And I don't know if she knows how to respond to somebody in a different way. And because she's not responding, he's not responding. So yeah, it's interesting. We thought really the two hot people were going to be fine, but I guess it takes more than
Yeah.
being hot to be in a relationship.
But that's what I mean by like, the experts do their best and on paper they should be good together, but c'est la vie. So we're back to David and Michelle. We have Michelle's friend and her sister, and we have David's friend. David is so affectionate with his friend, is so cute. He's like, oh, hey, baby. And then they kiss each other. They're like, oh, we didn't even plan this. They're both wearing pink. And they ask how long they've been friends. They used to work together. Michelle doesn't even know how long she's been friends with her friend. Like, if that gives us any insight into who she is. Because I think she said 5 years, and the friend was like, no, 8.
Yeah, love having you around, sis.
So they separate. Michelle goes with David's friend into the bedroom. I mean, they give them a tour and then they find out that, they're sleeping separate. And then the friend and sister sit down to chat with David. And David is like, it's been rough. But he's not worried about changing himself too much because everything he's doing, it betters him and betters them. And she's telling his friend that she thinks he's saying that she thinks he can fit her into her lifestyle, but what is that lifestyle? That
Yeah.
he's happy go lucky, he's a positive person, why can't that fit into her lifestyle? And he's like, what can he do to fit in? And the friend says, well, you should ask yourself, how are you enhancing her life? I'm like, well, with everything he just said, he's
Hmm.
happy, he's go lucky, his mental health is fine, he's good. That enhances her life. So she's telling his friend that she wanted someone that matched her lifestyle. I mean, at least they're on the same page there. But this is another thing, and this is how we find out that communication is hard. Everyone thinks communication is easy, but it's not. Because what is this lifestyle?
Right. Right.
And she says that she worked her butt off to live in the city after coming from humble beginnings, and she saved so much, and she wants to be able to know how she wants to spend her money. And I'm like, let's rewind a little bit. You just called this man poor. And you're just saying like you're not going to be able to save your. Where did we get all of this from?
Just what she observed from, I don't know. I don't know if she's judging. All of this stems from him living with his family and smoking and doing all this gross stuff that she doesn't think a successful person in her mind. She's saying match my lifestyle, but to me, I read that as successful. Because if he was Alan and drove a Lamborghini and had this apartment where he designed everything himself, like I feel like she'd feel very differently about him because outside of those things, he's a great guy and he's actually a good person for her if she could get past this thing.
Why does she think she's better? I get it. She came from humble beginnings. Yeah, she saved, all her money, but the way she speaks, like MM has a right to speak like, "Oh, I'm
Yep.
living in the this or whatever." So
Hmm.
honestly, you're still in a simple apartment. Yeah, I said it. So what is it like you built it up so much and all that stuff? I just don't understand why she's making that her identity. Like if he did have money or didn't live with his parents, would you still like him? Is the big question.
Or if he praised her for her lifestyle, because I think had he called her apartment something other than simple and basic, maybe.
No,
Oh well,
no.
I'm
She
trying to
would
give
have
her the
just,
benefit of the doubt.
no. She would have been even reminded more and felt like, yeah, this is why you're beneath me. Because that's exactly how she talks to him. But once again, she brings up the whole moving out to the friend, and the friend is like, "What is the point of moving out when you can save money and buy a house?" And I love when he said, "You rent, right?" Because honestly, the way Michelle speaks, she should own two houses. Because he's like, "You rent, right?" She's like, "How much do you pay?" Because I own. And I'm like, "Yes, keep going." And I'm surprised that she even answered how much she paid for rent. And even if he didn't mean to, I was enjoying the way he was sunning her. I don't, I'm here for anybody to put her in her place.
Yeah, that was and she got it, but she didn't get it in
No,
terms
she
of
wasn't
like.
going to do anything with it.
But also again, and this is the communication where I'm going to give her a tiny bit of grace to be like, well, David hasn't communicated any of this to her. He just said, I live here. Why wouldn't I live here? I think if he had given her some kind of plan to say, yes, I want to save $450,000 because I want a house in this area, da 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 da, maybe that would help her. And I think that's kind of where she's stuck, other than the fact that he lives in the basement. He's stuck on the fact that she is stuck on the fact that he does not have any sort of plan,
Mm,
I think.
I disagree. I think that
Respectfully.
yes, yes, respectfully. I think she just doesn't like him. So
Well,
she's not
that
even
too.
listening to it because he has said, I am saving money to buy a house. Even do I fully believe that? No, but I'm going to take his word for it because why not? You can't sign up for this experiment, go through the whole like experience to get in. You finally get matched out of like how many people, and then at the first thing you want to run. That's not how it works. So if you did actually like him, give him the benefit of the doubt. And then, like I've said it before. If you're done with the show and you're like, okay, show me your bank account with how much. Actually, you know what? Ask about it now and
Yeah,
say, show me how much you have that you're saving for, and then you know that we can get a house, and then we can move on from then. But that's not the case. She's not asking questions. She's not interested. He said it again that I just want to get a house with someone that I want to be with, and that's not enough for her because
yeah,
she's just not interested in. She has created a stereotype based on the one or two things she knows about him, and that's it for her. So
yeah, yeah,
yeah. So the friend tells her, like, listen, you're losing money and he's saving. Why settle? The same way you don't want to settle for a lifestyle, why should he settle for a house? He wants to save and buy with a girl that he likes, and they'll buy together things that they want. And she goes, that's fair. So he back to his sister, her sister and David. His sister says, like, listen, we grew up different. Your parents have been together for like 36 years and your grandparents 58. Our parents have been divorced. Our dad has been remarried like twice or three times. So he asked, like, she said she dated her husband for 11 years before they got married, and
yeah.
even then it was a thing.
That's a
So
real
he
long time.
asks what he can do to make Michelle happy. And she talks about, oh, where she lives, restaurants, workout classes. I'm like, y'all are not serious. Because these are all superficial things. Like, what? Like, anyways, I just wish they would let her walk. This is
Yeah,
just painful to watch.
no.
So his friend closes it out by telling Michelle, like, listen, he's a sweetheart. And Michelle is like, you know what? 100% I take accountability. I'm not trying as hard, that he's a good guy. And his friend responds in a tone like, I don't need you to tell me. I know that he's a good guy. Like, I'm not looking for your endorsement. And he's just like, but how long can he keep giving and you keep rejecting him?
Yeah. Ooh, foreshadowing. Ooh.
Thomas and Camille, they get home and Thomas brings up the whole type stuff that she was asking, is there anything you learned that you're surprised about? And he's like, yeah, like I didn't know I wasn't like your type, that I just thought you would date other light skinned guys. And he would have assumed that she dated more light skinned dudes. And she goes, why? And he said, because you're light skinned too. I don't know. And in the confessional, Camille is like, huh? Like what? And all that stuff. I mean, I don't know.
So
It was just funny.
is the crux of this issue that he doesn't think she identifies as black?
Wait, it's say that again?
Is the crux of their issue is that he doesn't believe she identifies as black?
No, it's not. But
Okay.
I think this is a glimpse of what she's talking about. Is just like he's just not in his mind. This sounds really bad, but like you just stick to your kind, I guess. But that's
Mhm.
why it makes
Mhm.
sense. Like, why would you? I'm light skinned, so I'm only date light skinned dudes because with that sense, it's like saying dark skinned people only date dark skinned, like
Right.
that with that logic, which
Right.
makes no sense at all. So I think that's just where she means like he's just, but then it's like, is that what it is? Or is he just, maybe she is right about the dad jokes thing? Cause I was getting on her about the whole dad joke thing, but he's just, I guess, oblivious
Oh
and
yeah.
doesn't know.
Culturally, yeah, he's not the most,
So Tom says that he feels like he's been around different kind of people, so it's not an issue for him. And he doesn't understand what the core of her issue is, but like, is it a red flag? Is it a deal breaker? And the code speak comes out again, and she's like, it's just a thing. It's not a red flag. And has he dated black women longer term? And he says, yes, he has. That one of his first girlfriends in college was a black woman. And she's like, okay. But she's like, she just doesn't want it to come up as a deal breaker or negative, but it's just something they'll work through. And I think, again, if they've decided they're just going to work through it, let's not talk about it again.
but are they, but you have to talk about it in order to work through it because they're not clear on what the problem is. They're not
Well,
on the same
until they're
page.
clear, until we
They're
can
not.
articulate what
Yeah.
is going on.
Yeah.
Because we've seen this conversation so many times, and it's Thomas that keeps saying, I don't know what the problem is.
Right.
How can you fix something when you don't know what the problem is? I think what will be best, which probably cannot be on camera, is when he does something, and maybe they did have a conversation about what he said, like, oh, I just thought you would date light skinned dudes because you're light skinned. Maybe she's like, hey, this is an example of where I feel like, why would you think that and all that kind of stuff? I don't know. But I think maybe that's a better solution for them. Like when there's an instance, she's like, oh, hey, this is what I mean. La da da da. Or I played this song and you didn't know who sang it. I don't know. Maybe something like that. Or you've never watched this movie, maybe something like that. But then how do you fix that? Like he's not gonna catch up. Maybe you could do a movie night. Actually, you can fix that if that's a thing. That's because she does admit a lot of times it is superficial. Like I think at some point she said, "I want to think I'm better than that." Like I'm not just so focused on this, but because we're not sure the extent of what exactly the issue is, maybe it is not superficial. So that's why I go back and forth on what exactly is the issue. Is it just the fact that, oh, he doesn't know the song, oh, he hasn't watched, I don't know, Coming to
Love
America or something
Love
like that?
Jones. Love and basketball.
Yes, exactly. Because then you could just be like, okay, every Friday night, we're just going to watch a movie. I'm just going to show
Exactly.
you this or whatever. Then it seems like an easy fix. But if it's to the point where it bothers you this much, it's like, okay, is this something deeper that you just can't put on camera?
Yeah.
So,
And maybe this is exactly the point where we need the experts to step in, especially a Pastor Cal or Dr. Pia. Like, sorry, Dr. Pepper, this is not for you. But having the two of them step in and have that conversation with them, because I truly think Thomas has no clue and she's not giving him anything concrete to go off of. And I
hmm
think, I'm a sensitive little person like Carla, where I will sit on something. You know, if my husband says something to me that hurts my feelings or it bothers
Mm,
me, I'll sit on it. But we finally agreed, like, all right, we have a code word. So if I say
mm,
flugelbinder, you said something that threw me off, and we talk
mm.
about it. And
Yeah.
you just have to figure that out.
Yeah. So we are back to MM and Ikechi's place. His cousin and his cousin-in-law, I think they're married to each other, come together, and her friend and her cousin that we met at the wedding, Rafi. We've met the friend before, also
Hmm.
so pretty. Um, Ikechi's still stuck on the conversation at the wedding. MM is telling them that she feels safety with him without it coming back to bite her in the ass. Rafiu asked them to describe each other in 5 words. I wish he
Oof.
never asked, or
Oof.
we're glad he asked. Ikechi says she's beautiful, she's passionate, she's ambitious, pause, and a little aggressive.
Ugh.
And everyone is like, her friend is like, hmm. And then he says he's from the South because, let's just blame it from being from the South. And he's used to people being laid back, and she's not that. And then MM says, w- they ask MM 5 words to describe. That's the thing. People didn't react at first. But then they asked MM, like, what
Didn't her
is.
friend? When did her friend say, "I don't really like the word aggressive"? Oh, it was after. It was
Yeah,
after.
I'll get there. So MM says, he's smart, he's laid back, he's calm, he's creative. And what's the opposite of aggressive? And then someone said nonchalant. And then Ikechi's like, I don't like the connotation of nonchalant. And her friend was like, well, I don't like the connotation of aggressive. Like, in the year of our Lord 2024, you don't know that calling a black woman aggressive is not the thing to say, and talk us of it even being your wife.
Hmm. At
Are
that,
you just.
and that's a cultural thing. That's something that you know. This
No,
is
but he
something
knows.
I would expect Thomas not to know, but no, Ikechi knows better.
He knows. No, he knows, which makes it like he
Yeah.
knows.
He's digging. He's digging at her.
You think Thomas doesn't know? Why do I see Thomas different from everybody else? Like, I would hate, like, I don't know. I feel like there's certain things, like, honestly, if that's the case that he doesn't know, I completely understand why Camille will feel that way, because I just feel like there's information out there. It's all about if you want to know or not. But is it something you want to work on with a person or not? I guess is where it is. But anyways,
Yeah.
sidebar. I digress.
Sorry.
So when she says I don't like the connotation of calling her aggressive, Ikechi fires back with it ain't about you.
This
His cousin
whole. Mm.
his cousin tries to make it nice, and MM is like saying things like, oh, maybe she just goes after something, yada yada yada. And MM is like, y'all gonna stop. He ended up by saying something with the word aggressive again. And then MM is like, okay, y'all gonna stop calling black women aggressive.
Yes.
And if anybody doesn't know, like, calling black women aggressive, like, black women are not allowed to feel a full spectrum of emotions. Like, you could be passionate about something, you could even get mad about something, and you'd be labeled aggressive. And people from other races could do the same thing, and they're not called, aggressive. I always say the example of, like, I watch all the housewives or whatever. If something is done in Atlanta, something's done in Potomac, it's completely different from when it's done on Beverly Hills or something else. It's just looked at differently. So it's just a thing that should not be your choice of word. But if you're even gonna call anything, why aggressive? Why not like a go-getter? Why not driven? And I mean, we talked about it earlier where we said, like, oh, she's a little extra with an exuberant, something aggressive. What has she ever done to you but accommodate you?
Exactly.
Kind of
Exactly.
crazy. So Raphael says, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being aggressive to the right man. Some men like it. Ikechi takes that as a shot to his ego. And I'm not 100% entirely sure that Raphael did not mean it that way. I think he meant it in a way like, I mean, if you're not doing anything, well, she has to do something.
Right. I think it was a shot, honestly, but I think he was standing up for his cousin. So I give him a pass on that one, because you're not going to sit here and say some wild crap to my cousin to her face on TV and get away with it. So yes, cousin. Yes, cousin. I stood up and applauded in my living room.
Ikechi says, "Don't get me wrong, I can lead." I was like, "I thought we were talking about being aggressive. So where are we talking about I can lead?" And Rafi was like, "Well, I mean, if she keeps describing you as chill, then she has no choice but to be aggressive." And I'm like, "Rafi hates him. I'm here for it."
And he has every reason to. This is not an unwarranted reason to dislike this man. He is bold faced to this woman's face in front of her friends and family, treating her unkindly, and he deserves whatever he gets back.
Yeah. Ikechi has his fight stance on. Like he's still sitting, but when, he has his arms crossed and everything, and they ask him, "What is the most exciting thing that you guys have done?" He's like, "This is the most exciting thing that we've done, hosting this housewarming." And Rafi was like, "We're not in college anymore. How do you get to know someone sitting at home?" Like Rafi says, "No offense. It sounds like you were bored."
No offense, but all the offense.
I mean, nothing good that comes after no offense. So Rafi asked, like, what are you guys talking about? Like, what happens after the 8 weeks? Like, living situation, like health insurance, life insurance. And Ikechi's like, everyone doesn't think like that. And honestly, it doesn't matter what Rafi said. Ikechi was going to oppose it. He
Yeah.
hates Rafi just as much as Rafi hates him. So they ask him, like, "Can you see yourself falling in love with her?" And then he laughs and he's like, "It feels like an interview." And they're like, "Yeah, we're asking questions." And I'm like, he's like, "This is not a normal situation. Like, I don't know, you guys think it's like a plug and play, but it's not a normal situation." And I'm like, "Yeah, for someone who allegedly tried out 3 times, it's not a normal
Mm.
situation. We know. We know. You should know too."
But bro,
So
you're on a timeline. That's why she's asking you these questions, because there is an expiration date on this, and we've got to figure out all of this stuff before we get to the end of that timeline. So
yeah.
this is not an unusual situation for somebody to ask you a bunch of questions. That's how she gets to know you, crazy
I
person.
mean, you're having a housewarming in a house that's not yours with cameras in your face and 4 people at your fiesta. What do you like? Okay.
I think he
Uh,
just wanted to play a song and them all go ooh, and that would be the night.
so Rafi says like what he wanted to hear were reassuring words, and her friend says like she wants to know him, and then he's like, "Then ask about me." And I'm like, you know what? I got a
Mm.
word to describe Ikechi. He's combative. Like what the
Yes.
hell? So her friend says Ikechi, well, she calls him Ike. Ike has a lot of excuses, and I hope he's okay with it because he seems like he takes offense to everything. That he has a lot of excuses, and it's just a red flag. This is after she made a face, and she's like, "I'll keep saying." Because at this stage he's gonna keep saying like they don't know each other even after they know each other 8 years, he'll still say the same thing. He tells them, like, "Listen, I am here for her and I'm not here to appease y'all." But how can you be here for someone and be rude to their family and friends?
Right. Yeah.
Don't work
They're,
that
they're
way.
they're a package deal. That's why the show is set up this way, for you to meet the friends and family, because all you're going to be in all these people's lives for at least the next 8 weeks. So why be a jerk about it?
The whole time this is going on, she's like 1 feet away in the kitchen, squished in with the cousin and cousin-in-law talking. I was like, how did everybody fit in there to do that? Um, Madison and Alan pop up again, and I'm like, oh yeah, them. She's making breakfast in bed for him. She butters him up and tells him like she's having a spa day and she needs him to leave and come back at 4 o'clock. This is the easiest thing to do for Alan because Alan's not the kind of person to be like, "Nah, man, I want to stay in bed." He's like,
Right.
"Okay, I'm just gonna go. No questions asked." We find out that it's a surprise pre-birthday party for him. Like instead of a housewarming, this is what they're gonna do. I was just hoping he got to shower because I just saw him wear a shirt and leave, and I'm like, I really hope he got to brush his teeth and take a shower.
Were you initially like, first of all, she was out with her friends and didn't come home, and then she's like, all right, I'm gonna have a spot with my friends and kicking him out, like before I realized it was a surprise party. I was so upset.
Yeah, I was. They've been teasing all this, but it's kind of expected of her. But I should know better. Like, there's a lot of fake outs. So I'm glad it was a fake out though, because it would have been like, okay, you're doing too much to this man. So Camille and Thomas are at lunch with her sister. I'm not gonna lie. My first thought was like, again, is her sister the only friend they have? And are we gonna talk about cultural differences all over again? But
Yep.
then as it progressed, it felt like a therapy session. I don't know if I know what her sister does. I don't remember, but it really did feel like that. And I was going to say that I was over it and it's not worth it, especially when she was like, we need to talk about race and identity. And I was just like, if we're not being explicit, we don't know what they're talking about, and it's not being clear, this is not going to be a productive conversation. But then it kind of took a turn because her sister, starts talking to them and just starts saying, like, you guys need to be clear about what you want to be as a couple, how you want to be seen. Like, do you want to call each other, like, I don't even know, do you want to identify as a black couple? In my head, I was like, isn't this the whole crux of their situation that Camille is kind of saying he's not black enough? Like, I would assume that they want to. Because he even said, like, I mean, I'm a black man. I don't see Thomas saying otherwise. So I think she was just being respectful. But I mean, I would easily assume that they do want to identify as a black
Yeah.
couple.
But the thing
And
I
then,
liked about them is that the thing I liked about her sister is that she was giving them the tools to have the language to have the conversation, because
Mhm.
everybody's just, he's assuming, she's assuming whatever. And I think the sister was really giving them the tools to figure out how to have this conversation effectively. I loved her.
I think that's why they had this conversation. Maybe a producer had sat with the sister and she was able to verbalize what was going on. Because if you kind of think about it, it was just kind of odd. They just all hung out and now they came and they're having that conversation again. And then her sister said something that stood out to me when she said, we have all, I'm going to speak for all of us, including myself, grown up in predominantly white spaces, which I would not have known because when they talk about these things, Camille keeps saying we grew up in different backgrounds
Right. Right.
and it wasn't predominantly white. So I feel like her sister was speaking a truth or a mission that we haven't known before, that they all grew up in predominantly white spaces, but they took different things out of it.
Right. But
So
I
again,
think the sister said that she had a degree in it and that she studied this,
okay.
that this was kind of her area of expertise in some way, which is why I think they had another meeting, because I'd
Hmm.
be surprised if a producer was versed enough in this to have this conversation. And I like that the sister used the brother as an example, so it didn't feel like, hey, Thomas, we're pointing the finger at you. We understand that this happens
Yeah.
across the community.
Yeah. So when she said like they all grew up in white spaces, she says they took different things out of it, and that Thomas reminds her of her brother, who doesn't feel like he has to say out loud and label himself. Again, I feel that was kind of code speak because I would like to know, to what extent are we saying, like, is he just trying to say he doesn't want to he doesn't identify as black, or he just doesn't. I don't know what that means when she says he doesn't want to label. And again, I don't want to put words in anybody, but she also talks about identity and they need to work on that, and that she thinks that Thomas leans heavy into being a man first. She says that, some black women don't think people of color don't apply to them because being a black woman is a specific experience. In some way I kind of agree because, in for some people of color, you can pass as other races, but once you're a black woman, you're a black woman.
Exactly.
You can't pass in that. Um she says like a guy can lean on being a guy, especially a light-skinned guy. It's just such a complex conversation because when she said the light-skinned guy, I'm like, there's the nuance of like, then we talk about colorism, because I think Keisha kind of asked that question also in After Party, where she's gonna ask Camille about if she's faced anything being a light-skinned black woman, because that's a whole different thing. And I'm just they need to work it out.
Yeah. But I think,
Perhaps
again,
off camera so it
no,
can
but
be
I think
straightforward.
I actually like it having it on camera, because I think there are other people like Thomas that are out there, or people like Camille that are out there,
Yeah.
and to see that we're not a monolith, and that these conversations happen in our interpersonal relationships
Yeah.
is something that I think is, especially now with everything going on, that it was a good conversation to see publicized. So I actually liked having it there.
I can agree. I think that this particular conversation, yes, I think it's a good conversation to have because she was actually saying more clearly than what it had before. The only reason why I was saying off camera is the things I've been saying all episode long is because they're not being explicit. So if you're not going to be explicit, take it off camera. But Thomas thanks her and says like he hadn't even thought about it that way. Even her sister, even when she asked Camille, like, "Am I? Is this exactly what it is?" It took her a while, but she finally was like, "You know what? I didn't have the words to say this, but this is what I mean. Like, yes, like you got it exactly right." So I'm glad Camille has her sister because this is the second time his sister spoke some sense into Camille.
Right.
So
I like
it
her
was
too.
good. So I'm hoping this is the end of the cultural differences and she can find something else that she wants to focus on. Camille said she doesn't want to be hung up on this. And again, good on her sister for verbalizing what Camille couldn't. So Madison and Alan, she has decorated the place. She got a cake with a jaguar. His friends come over. Lauren, her friend, looks so much like Charlotte from Sex and the City. I just kept staring at her. He finally comes in with Luffy and he was just surprised about it and he got excited when he saw the jaguar. He tells him that he sees why they were matched and he says nice things. And the hurdle is that he's slower paced. I think that's another word for laid back and she's on the go, go, go. She tells his friends that Alan hasn't given her feedback on things he doesn't like. I don't know if that's true, but even if it's not true, a lot of these things this women have been saying to the men, if the men even say remotely half of what they've said, there'll
Yeah.
be war to pay. Wait, that's not the right saying.
Hell to
There'll
pay.
be hell. There'll be hell to pay. It's been a long week, guys. But yeah, there'll be hell to pay. So I don't know the feedback. Even if they gave feedback, he did give feedback about wanting to spend quality time. Isn't that feedback?
Yeah, but again, I think she's looking for something more direct and concrete versus his little passive. I would have liked, I think he's got to say to her, if I have some criticism about you, it would be this. It's that we're not actively spending time together. But then what she needs is him for actively to do it. So I think they're in that phase where everybody's still trying to be nice to each other because it's all
Hmm.
still really early. Um, and yeah, this is again, we need the experts in here to come in and be like, all right, guys, let's get through some of this niceties and get to the core of these issues because you're not going to get there on your own.
Hmm. So his friend says guys overlook a lot and he's just a special guy. They kept cutting her off though to me.
Yeah,
So
I don't
they
like
didn't let
that.
her speak. So Alan tells them that he doesn't feel reciprocation. Like the other day, she went out to watch a game with a friend. And an invite would have been nice, but even if he doesn't go, but it's like bridging the gap of, not being in a relationship for a while could be hard for her. So she's still used to being independent. And her friend was like, "You just need to vocalize it. Like, just say that." I don't know. For me, I felt like him saying they need to spend quality time. Maybe, like you said, use his words more and actually give an example. Because no one's saying she should completely change her life. But again, 8 weeks, this is your focus right now. Instead of watching the game with a friend, maybe just take Alan or invite him or make him feel included. So he asks, oh, Alan's friend asks Madison if she thinks that this could work. And she's like, "That's a big question. And I don't have an answer for you." That's a no, dog. That is a no. So David and Michelle. David is making dinner for Michelle and he's saying he wants to show her that he can spice things up and do that. Before he starts, he just slips it in. He's like, "Oh, I'm so sore. I haven't done legs in a while, but I'm sore because I worked out with Madison the other day in the morning and I'm done." And Michelle is just like, "Huh, interesting. When did you work out?" He was like, "Yeah, the other day we work out like no, was it him? No, he said that in an after party. He was like, "Yeah, I just worked out with her in the morning." And she was like, "Huh, okay." So as a sidebar, I did think that this was going to be a fake out when we saw them working out in Mexico, but right now it definitely looks like we are building up to them being the couple that does the couple swap.
It looks like it, and I don't hate it.
Ooh, really?
I think in terms of, I don't know if he's physically her type because he's a big guy, but I guess when they called her type like a meathead, I figure somebody a little bit more ripped than he is. But I think
Hmm.
in terms of a personality, I think he's clear. He tells Michelle what he wants and how he feels, and he's really direct, which I think is something that Madison is looking for from Alan. So I think from a vibe perspective, I think I like the two of them together. I think they would have a lot of fun.
I don't even think it'll last. It'll be like a Zach and Bao situation. Like we're bonding
Uh,
over our
yeah,
not
sure.
being attracted to our partners type stuff. But she is blonde-ish and she does work out. And I think what she's attracted to is just like she said, the discipline of just working out all the time. But all these things, it's like I'm watching not Love is Blind, Love Island Australia, and they have these people who just bond over, oh, we go to the gym all the time, and that's the only commonality. And then there's
Uh,
nothing else
yeah,
that
yeah.
they have in common. But this could also explain why Michelle is like a different person at an after party that's like, oh, just wait and see. You guys think I'm terrible. My husband cheats on me.
Ugh. But
Who
I feel
knows?
like the only time she's happy is when she's mean. So I don't know. It's hard to root for
Uh,
her, put a gauge on her. And I mean, if your husband cheats on you, it didn't come out of the blue. It wasn't because he didn't try 1,000 things and then
mhm.
he gave up. So I don't know if you've got a leg to stand on that one, lady.
So she starts picking on everything he's saying. He gives her a compliment. She says the food is good as she puts salt on the
Yeah, so much
food.
so.
Oh, and then she gets happy when he says he'd like to do sushi again. I didn't believe him for 1 second, but he's just saying anything that he can to make her happy. Carla and Juan have the most frustrating conversation, which is why I said I don't think Carla knows how to communicate. She's like, "What makes you feel loved?" He says, "Actions." And then he says, "This is why, like, I clean up after you so that when you come home, you're here to a clean house. You don't have to worry about that." We see the flashback of him cleaning up after what looked like the housewarming.
Hmm.
Then she goes, "No, as your partner, like, what makes you feel loved?" He goes, "Actions. Like, I see my mom do it for my dad." And that's what I think shows the person that I care about you. I don't know how she misunderstood that. And then she's like, "Okay, I think you're not understanding what I'm saying. Like, how do you feel loved? Take toss aside us as, partners. Even though 5 seconds ago she just said as a partner. Like, what makes you feel loved?" And again he says, actions. Like, now I'm beginning to feel like it's the wrong answer. About cuddles, and she's like, I actually love cuddles and kisses. I really do. And one was like, oh, I didn't know. It was like, okay, because I think he said he's not really into that. And then he's like, okay, we'll meet in the middle and stuff. I don't know if this is her being her low energy self, but she looks checked out and she looks sad. And she could have made this conversation shorter by actually just saying, hey, something I'd like from you is compliments and cuddles and kisses and physical affection instead of going around this whole what makes you feel loved. Oh, you don't do that.
Amen.
Oh my goodness.
Amen. That was a conversation where she was like, I'm talking to you not to listen. I'm just waiting for you to answer so I can talk. Because, ma'am, he told you 3 times what
Yeah.
that is. And what you said to him without saying it is that, well, that doesn't work for me. What works for me is this.
Yeah.
So, again, and that's the thing with the love languages, is like, yeah, you're not supposed to just focus on your love language. You're also supposed to focus on your partners, especially when they don't match. So, if
Yeah.
you want hugs and kisses, you have to show him acts of service. Ba-ding.
Look at you, Jen.
Ugh.
So the group has a whole thing. They're playing flag football. Alan doesn't make it because he's hungover. We get a flashback of her saying, "You have 5 minutes or else you're not going to go." And then he's like, "I'm not going." And she's like, "I'm leaving you." He's like, "Fine." And then she does leave. They get there and they kept saying, like, "Oh, we're missing 2 people." And I'm like, "Who?" And I'm like, "Oh, Ikechi and
You forgot
MM."
about them.
I did. And then they walked in late. It seemed fun. Everyone was fun, except that they forgot their ages. Everyone was pulling a muscle, needed the Bengay. They had bananas for potassium and everything.
They had the what was it? The gun that shoots your
The
muscles.
Theragun, yeah.
Yes, I was like, oh, I love that thing.
Oh, so that was funny. So, Michelle says that, oh, they separate boys versus girls, and then the girls. Like, I don't know why they can't talk together. Okay, maybe they can't talk freely, actually, but why can they have like mixed, and then you can get different points of view from women? But I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking too hard.
No,
But
that might
Michelle,
help. That might help.
mm,
I feel like, was it Houston where Gil, did Gil kind of act as referee for some people, and he kind of helped people on both sides.
Well, he was the host the whole time, but I think Nashville, I remember they had some game and they split into a mixed crowd because I
Mm.
remember Clint was giving advice and all that kind of stuff. Um, Michelle says during the expert's visit that she just blacked out because it was so heavy. Carla says it's so platonic, like with her and Juan, that it feels like her cousin because they're kissing cheek to cheek. And then I realized, like, oh, I've been saying, like, I don't know if Juan is attracted to her, but is she attracted to him?
I think she was. Again, I think she's attracted to the attention and he's not giving her attention. And so she's not attracted to that because
Yeah.
objectively he's a very attractive man. So I don't think it's a
Yeah.
matter of what he looks like. I think it's a matter of what he makes her how he makes her feel.
Yeah. So Juan confirms the chemistry by telling them that confirms how he feels attraction wise, that he doesn't feel the chemistry. And Ikechi's like, yeah, I get it. I was like, we know, sir, that he's not touchy feely. Can you guess why he's not touchy feely? Because he's from the South. and He's from the South, and then her family is talking about bank accounts, life insurance, and I'm telling them that it's not a plug and play, that we just started. We're not doing this. I was like, sir, you sound aggressive talking about this. So,
Also, it is exactly a plug and play. That's what this show is about.
what do you think matching means? Anyways, tells them about the aggressive comment and how he feels like every question is aggressive and she doesn't take kindly to it. Madison says that, she's just wondering, can they cross over to the romantic, that, they went out last night and she didn't force him to take all the shots and then he didn't show up today and that's not sexy to her. Listen, does she have a right to be annoyed? Yes. I think that's something that I would find annoying. Like, we had something planned. You had to do this. You're a grown man. Know your limit. Yes, it's your birthday. But for all the things Alan has overlooked, he should get a pass.
Yes, I agree. I think, but also I would give him a pass because it's his birthday. And if it's flag football is not the most important thing of their day. Like, I think if it comes to, we need to focus on stuff about you and
Mm-hmm.
me playing flag football isn't a big deal. Like, if he had missed out on a dinner with her best friend or they had a special dinner plan and he missed out, yes, I'd be upset. But in terms of like the scope of what they need to be working on,
Mm-hmm.
this wasn't the flag that she
Yeah.
needs to put in the ground.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was the episode. Anything I missed?
No, that you covered everything really well. Oh, I don't know, and I don't know if y'all covered it in the last episode. What did you think of Loopy?
Luffy,
Yes,
the dog?
yes.
It's a lot. I couldn't remember if it was a he or she, but that's a
it's
lot.
a,
And then
it's a he.
she talks a lot about it in after party, like you can't get through a whole conversation without him just trying to destroy something or get in on it. So that's a lot. But she's
Oh,
actually pretty cool about it. Even cooler than Ikechi is about Rico, I think is MM's dog. And her
which
dog is pretty chill.
and her dog is well behaved. Like, she told her dog to
Yes.
go into the bed, and it went straight to bed. So
Yes.
be
And
quiet.
he's all, I'm not a dog person, not a crime, but like, oh, I need to do this. He just
Mhm.
whines about
He's
everything.
looking for any excuse that he can.
Mm, 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 mm. This guy. What are we going to do with Ikechi all season long?
Punch him in the
All
face.
right, Jen. Who has your bouquet?
I know that we're supposed to normally give them to the cast, but I'm going to give it to Camille's sister for this one because I think she had a really good perspective. She gave Camille kind of some language to go off of. She gave Thomas something to think about. So she's got my bouquet this week. How about you?
Just FYI, anybody can get the bouquet as long as they showed up
Yay!
on the episode. It's fine. My bouquet goes to Mike, who is David's friend. I love the way he broke it down to Michelle because Michelle has been talking to David crazy. It's about time somebody talked to her crazy. And the way he stood up for his friend. That's what a friend should be. Your friend should always have your back even when you're not there. That I really appreciated. And since there's no episode next week, I figured I'll just give it all out. Camille's sister was on the list, and MM's cousin Refu is also on the list. Like, someone needs to check Ikechi anyways. So
Yes.
um they also get bouquets. So Who has your ashes?
Oh, there were so many people to pick from on this episode. I'm gonna go with Ikechi this season or this episode because the way that he came unhinged to MM's cousin, to MM, and then to the guys, like walking around waiting for somebody to go, I'm gonna complain about this and I want you to say that I'm right. And nobody said that you're right. So look at yourself, sir.
Mm.
What about you?
Ikechi has my ashes without question, without thinking. Doesn't matter. Like everything was just wrong. Like you don't have to be so rude to
No.
anyone, even if you're not feeling them. So, and you already called your wife a homie. So now you called her aggressive. So now you have an aggressive homie as your wife. Like,
An aggressive homie with a dog. Oh my gosh.
I'm over Ikechi and his complaints because they're never ending. So, all right, Jen, tell people where they can find you.
Oh, thank you so much for having me back. I always love talking to you. Um, Everybody can find me. I am switching over to focusing on our travel. So you can find me on Instagram or YouTube on jns.adventures.
Ooh, exciting. Well, guys, you can always join the conversation. I love how interactive you guys have been lately. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you agree with, disagree with. You can find us on social media with Altacall Maps. That's ALTARCALLMAFS. Same handle on Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. Please give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And don't forget, there's no new episode next week. There'll be an unlocked bonus episode, and I don't know what the schedule is for the holidays because they all fall during that. And depending on what the schedule is, we'll be back then for a new episode. Thanks again for joining, Jen. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Same with you. Have a great day.
Till next time, guys.